Kubernetes for humans.
Hello, everyone. My name is Itiel Schwartz, and I'm your host today in the Kubernetes for Humans podcast. Today, I have in the show Hayato. I hope I pronounced it correctly. How are you?
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's absolutely perfect pronunciation. Thank you very much. And all good. Thanks. And happy to be here.
So maybe tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do? Where do you work? When did you start working with Kubernetes? And let's start with some basic intro.
Oh, this could take a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
But I hope you're ready. My name is Hayato Shimizu. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Digitalis. What we do is essentially a kind of a technology consultancy company around DevOps, data platforms. We do everything from the kind of a cloud infrastructure, DevOps operations, taking from day zero to day two of the platforms. We focus on some of the most difficult problems.
Mhm.
Um, that's how kind of we made our name. So infrastructure, security, some of the most difficult security problems in infrastructure, etc., and data as well. So we are experts around. We have
No,
expertise.
you say all of the buzzword like data and Kubernetes and security. So like so many like different hard stuff or like blended together. Maybe like share a bit like how did you like started where you are like
Yeah.
company.
Okay. Let me just kind of just go back for quite a few years now. So my career really started in the kind of late '90s when I was in the postgraduate around. It was kind of neural nets, machine learning sort of things back then, and the computers are really slow, and the training used to take weeks on these large scale machines, and yeah, it was that's all we knew back then. But then I kind of doing a lot of coding in C and Perl and on Unix systems and RS, so on, and then joined a company called Citrix. I don't know if you know them, but they're a kind of application delivery company.
Yeah, they are
Right?
huge, aren't they? Or am I confusing
Yeah,
with Citrix?
yeah, they're very large now, and I think I was employee 1300 or something like that back late '90s. I was kind of focusing a bit on the network protocol side of things there. But then after that, I joined a very large bank, and writing a kind of a what we called CI/CD about full kind of application delivery automation,
Mhm.
taking source code into kind of all the builds and test pipelines into a large scale WebSphere application kind of clusters, right? So
Here, like
yeah, that's probably the equivalent of Kubernetes back then in terms of being deployed applications in a standardized fashions with a standardized messaging protocol, the standardized kind of application deployment containers, etc. It's not the containers that we know today, but yeah, that was kind of that's how applications used to be deployed. Probably still is
still is.
in
I would guess most of the people who started with WebSphere didn't really left that, or like most of
yeah.
them.
That's right. I mean, back then, I was kind of introduced to the Solaris zones and like IBM LPAR, WPAR, these kind of the containerization technologies back then. But I was kind of massive Linux advocate as well. They used to follow the kernel updates, and I remember like OpenVZ came in and introduced kind of a resource isolation to kind of Linux kernel
Mhm.
2.4 back in those days. Later on in kernel 2.6, I think it was the concept C groups was introduced into Linux. Again, very much excited reading about this all, but
Mhm.
I think it was Docker, really kind of standardized the use of C groups and containerization into
Mhm.
Linux. Yeah.
When was like Linux 2.4? Like I feel it's like a lot of time ago. Like what year range are we? You look quite young, if it's okay to say in the podcast. But
2006, maybe. Yeah,
Mhm.
around, I started using Linux in 1996.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. That's when my Windows machine crashed and destroyed my university documents, projects I was working on. And I said I vowed never to use Windows at that point.
Mhm.
Although things have turned around since then. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay, so like you are in the bank, you're doing all of those things. Then what? Like, how did you like ended up like founding your own company, and when did you start playing with Kubernetes?
yeah. So I think even I joined a company called Sky in 2008, and I think the concept of platform as a service was starting to emerge. So being able to deploy applications more in a flexible way rather than just the WebSphere Java applications. So and then there was services like Heroku
Mhm.
and yeah, if you remember Heroku, they're still going on.
You're still there. Like, I
That's
think.
right. But then Cloud Foundry was the open source kind of a platform service that was out. It was written in Ruby at the time, and we actually adopted this to deploy a lot of the internal applications back then. And so just the whole concept of being able to deploy applications and democratize the developers so that they can deploy the applications themselves rather than having to go to the ops say, hey, we've got this app and can you deploy it and get it all, wired up, everything. Now, actually, kind of, platform, well, I suppose the terminologies like platform engineering came out later, but we were trying to just say to the devs, look after your own applications. Here's the platform to do it. There's the API, etc. And then,
Okay, so like you're in Sky, right? Like just doing a recap. You're starting like to work on like platform engineers. Back then, it wasn't called right like platform engineers, but the same concept of and mentality of basically trying to empower other people, right, inside organization, many developers. And then what happens, or and then what?
yeah, so I actually kind of moved on from that side of things and joined a company called DataStax, focusing on Apache Cassandra and large scale data platforms.
Mhm.
I was there for two and a half years on or so, and then but my itch to go back to kind of us helping enterprises what was there. So I decided to leave DataStax and set up my own consultancy company, focusing around DevOps and data problems. And essentially, Kubernetes was really a part of the delivery of DevOps services and so on.
Yeah.
So
Maybe let's do like a stop for a second because I think a lot of our listeners are platform engineers, they are operation people, and you after like years of working in like quite big companies and like smaller companies, you decide to like to do a consultancy, right? So maybe like share a bit about that, like why, how was it scary? Maybe like share a bit about like moving from working as like a normal employee into like a independent worker basically and like your own business owner. So like why, how?
yeah, it was very scary to set up on my own, but I had a great partner to set this up
Ah,
with. That's really important. That it's not one person trying to set up a company like this as well, but it was really kind of we're helping each other setting this company up. There's a lot of work to do setting up a company up. Anyway,
mhm,
it's not tech, as you may know. It's
mhm,
not just there's a whole bunch of things that goes with it. But also, I just had my second child born around that time as well. So it was a
ah,
very scary
excellent.
thing to just move on from, someone paying me salary to setting up my own company. But I think I've always had the itch to help enterprises because there's always big problems especially around platforms. And, I really wanted to kind of leverage my experience and knowledge to help enterprises to kind of, introduce some of the kind of possibly more scary tech like Kubernetes at the time, well, into these enterprises and help them get it set up. And so that's what we did. And luckily, there were customers who wanted
Huh?
to take our services.
How
uh,
did you get the first customer? Just I think like that's like the hardest thing, right? Like or maybe not.
it, it was quite interesting because when we were at DataStax, and I was running the consultancy arm of a part of the DataStax, and
Mm.
luckily they were able to introduce some customers as we left the company. They said, look, these customers need help. And so we kind of got them engaged. So it's really kind of an introduction through a previous employer. But I think, initially when you're starting out, you really need friends.
Mhm.
Um, and well, even when you establish, it's not, you need friends. You need to be part of the ecosystem. We're a services company, but it's, we can't just be services company. We need to be friends with product companies as well. And which is why we're having, this lovely conversation right now to talk to people about, the setting up companies and having friends is so important.
Okay, no, I think it's like very cool that you got your first customer through the employer, like through your previous employer. I guess it's not the most standard way of like starting like your own consultancy, but it's a great story. So you start your own business, you start to consult to people. Is it still the same company, or like so? Yeah, like what happened since then?
Yeah, it's still the same company, and we've grown organically over time. We haven't actually taken any funding as such, so we've grown organically through kind of our customer acquisitions, and I trust all of our customers are happy with our services, and we do consultancy like the day zero to day one, but we also do day two. So we have a very sticky situation where some of our customers been with us for many many years. In terms, we provide managed service of the operations. So that's part of what we do, and looking after things like the Kubernetes, the databases, and DevOps automation, and also cloud infrastructure, and so on.
Okay. Okay. So, like we didn't had a lot of consultants over like the podcast. So maybe like sure as I guess you see quite a lot of companies. So first question, maybe like who is your customer? Like when we're now talking about your customer, is it like SMB enterprises and so on? And what is the most common challenges that you see? Like I think like it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really good to talk about. So our customers have typically been so it ranges from kind of medium scale enterprises to large enterprises like banks, insurance companies, and so on. Where probably some of the biggest challenges are not technologies themselves, but it's the
Mhm.
kind of people aspect of it when you've got multiple vendors involved looking after these large scale platforms, and then how we work with other organizations, etc. And things like Kubernetes is now taking up a lot of the applications into these platforms, involving application developers from over here, the operations from team from another vendor, Kubernetes SMEs from subject matter experts from us, and so on, and so on. But generally speaking, when things are okay, it's great. It's when the incidents happen, and that's when we go on the triage calls, and how we try and identify the root causes, etc. And people have different experiences, and different companies have different expertise, and trying to bring all of that together to come up with a root cause analysis can be quite challenging. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, do you see most of the challenges in like the day two or the day zero or like the day one? What part is the trickier for companies?
I think every stage is always going to be a
Yeah.
challenge. Uh, brings different challenges, of course. But I think in the context of say Kubernetes, I think it's just made it so easy for the application developers to deploy containerized applications to platform. So that's great. I think the largest challenge is once you go into production, and the scale that it hits them with can also be a challenge. How to make sure that the platforms are designed to scale, and sometimes unprecedented load comes in, etc. and or it just you can scale applications horizontally in Kubernetes. That's what it's designed to do. But then applications themselves may not be designed for scale sometimes
Yeah.
as well. So those are some of the challenges there. Data is always a big challenge in terms when it comes to scale as well. But yeah, and of course, these kind of challenges always brings in incidents, and um, and also the platform engineering teams generally have got an enormous backlog of things to do whilst they're firefighting in production systems. And I've been in that situation many times whereby the Jira list is so long, uh,
Mhm.
uh, and, the application teams go, hey, can we do this and can we do this? And we'd love to service all of them. There's always a certain amount of resources available to deliver all this. And then the production problems happen, firefighting. So yeah, that's always a big challenge there to prioritize production problems and the back.
Maybe like share some tips, right? Like let's say I'm a big company. I don't know. I have WebSphere. I want to use Kubernetes. Until now, I didn't had any. I can call you, right? And then my life will be easier. But let's say, like our customers, our listeners that are trying that themselves, like what is the biggest mistakes people are doing when they are trying to migrate to Kubernetes, and like what's your suggestions on how to make your life a bit better?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of homework that people should do before kind of thinking about the migration to Kubernetes, and I think of course there's training things that people go on to available, but it's really knowing what are the sharp corners are around and are deploying into Kubernetes, and understanding what it's really good at. What is the fit with my existing applications, and just doing that upfront work before just just containerizing the applications, deploying it, and see the problems later on. Anticipate the problems. Yeah. What could happen with your application that's currently running in WebSphere? You're so dependent on WebSphere, and then you rewrite the application to be deployed into Kubernetes. Um, some unexpected events may happen. Like, yeah.
Okay, and maybe like I get it. So like that's the day zero. Like let's do your homework, try to understand. Let's say I already migrated something to Kubernetes. Like now it's like the day one problem. What is the biggest challenge in that regards that you see customers are struggling? And where do you see maybe like the line between day one to day two, if any? Right? Like day zero is easy. I have zero Kubernetes, now I have something, let's say running in production, and now I'm like in day one or day two. Like so when do I graduate from like day one to day two, if any? And yeah, like what are the biggest challenges in day one?
Yeah, and so the biggest challenges, I suppose, is the kind of the norm of the Kubernetes applications in general is stateless nature of the application, right? You want to make sure that the applications can handle restarts. Applications can handle kind of scaling horizontally, adding new nodes to the cluster. Stateful sets if you have to do that, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, really, um, because a lot of the traditional applications have been written with a very static kind of set of running environments in mind. So a lot of the codes are being written with a lot of in-memory dependencies, and then when the application restarts, or, by suddenly but killed by the Kubernetes because it was exceeding the CPU utilization, and then just suddenly killed and things like that. And then but we just lost something that was in memory, sort of
Mhm.
thing. And so those are probably some of the day one challenges, and so rewriting the application to be compatible with the way the Kubernetes works, right?
Yeah. No, like like the shift and lift that a lot of people are hoping that will work. Like I rarely see those things working. Like usually there's a lot of like hidden magic in how applications are currently working with outside of Kubernetes, and you forgot that someone is handling all of this, like memory and networking and storage, and you just don't think about it, and then all of a sudden you are forced to rethink all of your bad decision or like even like good decision from back in the day. Okay, so now let's talk maybe about day two. I rewrite my application, right? Like I'm already in Kubernetes. I have production workload. Like now, what's the biggest challenge or like what's the biggest like difficulties?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge might be there's so many challenges that enterprises face with Kubernetes, but uh, let's talk about capacity, for example, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so as you know, kind of Kubernetes, when you're deploying applications, you kind of set certain amount of resources and things like that, and make so determining what sort of resources can be used by these applications. You have to run in production. Obviously, you're going to do the load testing in non-production environments first. But you never know what the load is going to be in production until you actually hit it. You can estimate. I've been in so many situations where the business will tell us, "Oh, you'll be this much load," and we see nowhere near the load, or sometimes way over the load. And
No one
no,
knows your roads. Like, I worked quite a lot, like in the industry. Like, even now, if you'll ask me, like, what will be Commodore load in a year from now or like in 3 months from now, like, I don't know, like everything is possible. It's probably going to be worse than I thought. That's like the only thing that is almost always guaranteed that it is going to be different. And then like how do customers like adopt to that, like to this uncertainty or this unknown?
yeah, so I mean, you've got the platform level scaling. So if you're in the, one of the public clouds, it's kind of easy to set up the Kubernetes so that you can auto scale. You've got a whole bunch of technologies like, Kaggle or something like that to be able to scale. But every single bit of technology requires a bit of learning, right? And then, it's also the experience of knowing how these technologies behave in these situations where when the sudden load comes in and how the application behaves. And obviously, the monitoring is very, very important to make sure that you're monitoring the applications, uh, so that when the your API response is breaching the service level agreements around the 99 percentile latencies and so on, right? But so having that in place, and then when that is breached, then where's the problem? Why didn't the auto scaling happen properly, or what's going on there?
Mhm.
And then usually it could be the config issues, limits that you may have set. There's so many different tuning parameters with any kind of the application deployments that happen. So, what is the tuning parameter, or what is the knob that I need to dial to kind of to adapt to these types of load that just came in, or
Okay. Okay. So we are like almost running out of time. Maybe like share a bit about like your predictions for the future. Like where are we going as an industry? What's hot and what's not? Like give your take on like where are we going to be in the upcoming few years?
well, I think what's obviously industry is kind of adopting the AI technologies, and it's absolutely amazing what these technologies can do. And we've been kind of trialing Commodore, and one of the interesting things is the root cause analysis that it provided with. And we've run this against a number of Kubernetes clusters, and it's actually found problems that we knew about, but its analysis was correct. And I think if we have these kind of tools, what we were discussing earlier about multiple people trying to work on an instance, and then having having these kind of systems suggesting the root causes quickly allows us to do the resolution very quickly, and stops potentially the heated conversations that may happen in a very stressful
Yeah.
situation everyone's stressed, everyone wants to fix the problem, but everyone's got different opinions. But sometimes, a machine independent resolution, can be kind of a good thing. I'm really looking forward to these kind of technologies, helping us drive the enterprise platform stability going forward.
Okay, okay, that's like a super. Like I'm with you on the take. Like overall, I think we're like investing quite a lot in that area. Anything else that you want to say is like you have a new book, a new lecture, a new anything that you want to give a shout out to?
Um, So no, I think I've got just just completely different conversation, but I do run a different company called Axonauts, which is a product company that came out of Digitalis. So this is focusing more around Apache Cassandra and Kafka platform. So that's it's essentially a um, day two tooling for those data platforms specifically. Not Kubernetes related, but I thought that might be quite interesting.
Okay, that sounds quite cool. So I will add it to the show notes if we can. And I think with that, we'll conclude the episode. Thank you very much. Pleasure having you. And goodbye.
Thank you for hosting me.